Happy Sunday. I wanted to go into what kind of testing I did after my ectopic pregnancy. So I felt it was very important to look into genetics, look into chromosomes, see what might have been causing my miscarriages. Because I never knew after the first two miscarriages, and then I had the ectopic pregnancy. I still had no idea what was causing my losses. So after my ectopic pregnancy, I went to genetic counseling. I went to genetic counseling through the same place that they did my surgery because they had my medical history there. And of course, I had to send them my medical history of my previous losses so that they can collect all the data and get a kind of understanding of how many losses I have had. And so, to the hospital that I had my surgery, they did genetic counseling and they did it via telehealth, you know, video with the counselor. And she just wanted to eliminate anything that I might not have thought about before that could have potentially caused my losses. So she asked for my family history as well as my fiance's family history. Questions from does Down syndrome, thyroid disease, anorexia, all these questions that maybe you don't think about, unless it's like a real history down your family line. You don't really think it affects fertility or affects you having losses. So those were some of the things she asked. Pretty much, other than my mom having diabetes and his mother having diabetes, we didn't have real concerns or any reason to think that, our genetics had anything to do with it, but the counselor wanted to rule it out. And if it's covered by your insurance, go ahead and go for it. You're not losing anything, even if you feel like, well, my parents are normal, his parents are normal, genetically, we're speaking. So I don't see the point, but there's just questions they might ask that you have not thought about. After that, we did chromosome testing. Now, chromosome testing is they take blood work, they run a bunch of labs, and it's something that you have to get a referral from. So we got the referral from our genetic counselor. She referred us, we looked in network, and then we just went to wherever our insurance covered, and we went to a lab and then did the chromosome testing. Now, the chromosome testing, pretty much everything came back normal for that. However, there was one thing that was very concerning, and that was spinal atrophy. Spinal atrophy that one of us was a carrier for spinal atrophy, and that could affect the baby, but nothing in the chromosome history showed a cause for the loss. My thyroidism was okay. She did say I had might have the possibility of anorexia, and that's something I should look into and do further testing for that. But other than that, chromosome testing, everything went fine, and I felt like that was more beneficial than the genetic counseling. But because you get to see tests done and you get to look into your chromosomes, are the chromosomes normal? Is everything okay? So I felt the chromosome testing was very beneficial. And once again, if your insurance covers it, go for it. Lastly, the last test I did after the ectopic pregnancy, you have to make sure you're on your period, and that's the HSG test. In the next video, I'll explain a little bit more about the HSG test, but basically, it's a X-ray. They put a dye, insert a dye to see if your tubes are open or not open. So, thankfully, my tube was open, and then we were able to proceed with trying to conceive. But of course, when you do take that exam, you have to wait till after your period to take that exam because you don't want to risk being pregnant already and then taking that exam. And for some people, that procedure can be painful. So I'll go into the next video into what my HSG x-ray experience was. And thank you guys for listening in today. But those are all the testing I did, blood work, speak to your provider. Ask your provider what blood work you should do or what testing you should do. You know, find a provider that you can be consistent with and not continue to change. Like I changed my OBG 3 times, so that meant faxing and emailing all my history back and forth to a provider. And then eventually I actually went into a fertility specialist. And by the time I went to this fertility specialist, um, I was already pregnant because he wanted me to do IUI, sorry. And I was like, no, I want to conceive naturally. And he was like, okay, by the summertime, we'll get you pregnant with IUI. And I was like, no, I want to figure out what's wrong with me, why I can't carry. The problem wasn't me getting pregnant. The problem was me keeping the babies past the first trimester and figuring out why I was losing these babies. So he was like, okay, we'll try your way, we'll try naturally, come in for more blood work. And then when I was supposed to go in on the 3rd day of my period for my hemoglobin testing, you had to go on your 3rd day of your period. My period did not come. I canceled that appointment and made an appointment right away with my OBGYN. And thankfully, we're here. We're in the 2nd trimester. But let me go into the next video and go over my HSG experience.